What you are about to read has been documented, debated, and dismissed by people who were standing close enough to see it and still did not understand it. A soldier in full ceremonial dress, bearskin cap, scarlet tunic, polished boots catching October light collapsed forward onto hard stone forecourt, hands at his sides, rifle vertical, face going first into the ground with no attempt to slow it, no flinch, no reach. The tourists around him made the sound crowds make when they witnessed something that shouldn't be survivable. He was not injured, he was not ill, he had not been struck. He had simply fainted, the way Grenadier Guards sometimes do after 90 minutes of rigid stillness in wool uniforms on warm stone. And when he went down the way he had been trained to go down. Face first, hands never moving, rifle never tilting. The question that ripples through every crowd that witnesses this is always the same. Why would any military in the world teach a man to destroy his own face rather than catch himself? That question has a short answer and a long one. The short answer is practical and will rearrange something in you. The long one takes a career to understand, and one American filmmaker approximately 36 hours. This is the story of both. The forecourt of Buckingham Palace in late October carries a particular quality of light. It comes in low and sideways, the kind that turns the gray Portland stone a pale amber and makes the black iron railings look as if they were cast for a painting rather than a perimeter. Tourist season had thinned but not vanished. The guided groups that remained were smaller, quieter, more deliberate people who had planned this, who had looked it up, who wanted to see the thing itself rather than a photograph of the thing. The changing of the guard had been underway for 11 minutes when Dana Merritt arrived. She came with 2 crew members, a cameraman named Phil who carried his equipment like a man who'd carried it across 4 continents and rescented all of them equally, and a sound recordist named Yara who moved through crowds with the silent efficiency of someone who had long ago made peace with being invisible. Dana herself moved differently. She moved like someone arriving at a place they had already decided to leave. She was 43, based in New York. She had made documentaries about military pageantry in 6 countries, the changing of the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier, the mounted ceremonies at the Spanish royal palace, the elaborate theatrical precision of the Thai royal guard. Her working thesis, the one that ran underneath all of her films like a current, was that ceremonial military units were institutional theater, funded performance, heritage cosplay dressed in metals and wool. She did not say this quietly. "Same thing every time," she said to Phil as they positioned near the rope line, the palace gates framing the ceremony behind them. Tall hats, slow march, very serious faces. The message is always the same: look how permanent we are. Look how unshakable. She tilted her head toward the line of guards. These men are props, very disciplined props, but props. Phil nodded without conviction. He'd heard the thesis before. Yara said nothing and held the boom. Corporal James Wellen had heard everything Dana Merritt said. This was not unusual. In 12 years of ceremonial duty, preceded by 2 tours of Helmand Province, Wellen had heard most things that could be said by most categories of person standing on the other side of a rope line. He had heard mockery in 6 languages. He had heard genuine reverence in 3. He had heard a child ask his father, in a carrying whisper, if the soldier was real or a robot, and the father's uncertain pause before answering. None of it had ever moved him, not because he was incapable of being moved. That was the assumption most people made, and most people were wrong. But because the post demanded something specific from him that had nothing to do with what strangers thought of it. He was 5'11", Irish-born, County Kildare, the second of 4 brothers, all of whom had gone into trades or farming, and none of whom had ever fully understood why James had gone into this. He had a face that gave nothing away at rest, not coldness, just economy. The kind of face that had learned, in 2 different theaters of war and 1 very long career of public stillness, that expression was a resource to be conserved. His tunic was immaculate. His bearskin cap was level. His boots reflected a compressed version of the forecourt and the pale sky above it. He stood. Dana began her documentary the way she always did. Observation first, provocation second. She filmed the ceremony from 3 angles. She filmed the crowd. She filmed the handoff between outgoing and incoming guards with the professional attention of someone who had filmed it before and was looking for what she'd missed. Then, when the new guard was posted and the formal ceremony had concluded, and the remaining soldiers were at their static posts, she turned her attention to Wellen. "Start close," she told Phil. "I want his face." Phil started close. Dana positioned herself near the rope line, just inside the distance that made most people faintly uncomfortable, and studied Wellen with the frank appraisal of someone taking inventory. After a moment, she raised her hand and waved it slowly in front of his eyeline. Not a taunt, clinical, testing response latency. Nothing. She leaned slightly to the left. His eyes did not track her. She took a step back and said, loudly enough for the microphone, completely inert, "You could put a coat on this man and use him as a hat stand." A French tourist nearby laughed. His wife shushed him. Wellen did not blink. Dana circled to Phil and spoke into camera. "We're here at Buckingham Palace, where the Queen's Guard maintains ceremonial posts as part of a tradition stretching back to 1660. The men you're seeing are active British Army soldiers, not ceremonial specialists, meaning these same individuals have in many cases served in active combat deployments. Today we're going to find out whether there's a person inside the uniform." She turned back toward Wellen. "Or whether the uniform is the person." He had been asked, years ago, in a narrow room in the Wellington barracks that smelled of floor wax and cold radiators, why he wanted the ceremonial posting. The question had been put to him by Colour Sergeant Patrick Doyle, a man built like a doorframe who had served in Northern Ireland, Bosnia, and Iraq, and wore none of it on his face. Doyle had interviewed 12 candidates that morning. He asked each of them the same question, and listened to the answers with the expression of someone waiting for the bus. Wellen had said, "Because I'm good at it." Doyle had looked at him for a moment. "You're good at standing still." "Yes, Colour Sergeant." "But most people aren't." "No, Colour Sergeant." Doyle had written something on the form in front of him and moved on. Wellen found out later that Doyle's note read, "Doesn't oversell himself. Useful." The fall training had come in the 3rd week. It was introduced without ceremony, which felt appropriate. Doyle had gathered them on the parade ground behind the barracks on a gray February morning and explained it the way he explained everything, once completely, without repetition. "You will faint," he said. "Some of you have already fainted and don't know it yet. When it happens on post, you will not reach out. You will not try to catch yourself. You will go forward and you will go down with your hands at your sides and your rifle vertical." One of the candidates, a young man from Manchester named Price, who had a talent for asking questions that others were already thinking, raised his hand. "That'll destroy your face, Colour Sergeant." "Yes," said Doyle. "Why would we?" "Because the rifle doesn't belong to you." Doyle said it the way you state the boiling point of water, factual, settled, not open to the philosophical register. The rifle is the Crown's. Your face is yours. When you go down, the rifle goes down last or not at all. Clear. Price did not ask another question. Wellen had stood in the February gray and felt something shift in his understanding. Not dramatically, not like revelation, more like furniture being moved to where it had always been meant to go. He didn't know yet whether he agreed with it. He knew that it was serious in a way that demanded to be taken seriously. He had practiced the fall 400 times before he ever stood post. Dana Merritt escalated in stages. This was her method, documented, deliberate, something she had written about in a trade piece for a film journal 3 years prior. Escalating stimulus, she called it. finding the seam between performance and person. Stage 2 was noise. She asked Phil to play a recording through his portable speaker, a sharp, percussive burst of sound, the kind that trips the startle reflex. 3 seconds. Welland's eyes did not move. His jaw did not tighten. His breathing, as far as she could read it, did not change. Stage 3 was proximity. She leaned in, not touching, not crossing the rope, but inside the distance that registers as intrusion, close enough to see the individual fibers of the wool tunic. She stayed there for 40 seconds, staring at the side of his face the way you stare at something you're trying to decode. He smelled of starch and cold air. There was a very small scar on his left jawline, barely visible, the kind left by something that happened quickly a long time ago. She stepped back. "He's good," she said to Phil, and she meant it as a professional assessment, not a compliment. Good was what you called a subject who wouldn't give you what you needed. "What do you want to do?" Phil said. "Find someone who will tell me about the fall." The press liaison was a young captain named Fletcher, who had the earnest efficiency of someone who deeply believed in the job and slightly feared the journalist. He met Dana in a side office adjacent to the Palace Visitor Center, where the furniture was government tissue, and a poster about heritage access covered a water stain on the wall. She asked about the fall protocol directly, no preamble. Fletcher nodded as though he'd been expecting this. "It's a common question. The short answer is that the rifle is a piece of crown property and ceremonial equipment. The guard's duty is to the post and to the equipment before personal comfort." "Personal comfort," Dana repeated. "That's what we're calling not shattering your own face." Fletcher adjusted in his chair. "The guards are trained to manage the fall in a way that—" "Does it hurt?" A pause. "I imagine it does, yes." "And the institution asks them to do it anyway." "The institution trains them to understand why they do it. That's a different thing." Dana wrote something in her notebook. Fletcher watched her write it and looked like a man who wished he could read upside down. "Can I speak to one of them?" she asked. "Off post, after duty." Fletcher said he would ask. Welland agreed to the interview the way he agreed to most things, without visible enthusiasm and without visible reluctance. It was a thing that had been asked. He would do it correctly. That was the full extent of his deliberation. They met in a small break room in the Wellington barracks at 4:15 in the afternoon. Dana had her recorder. Phil had been left outside at Welland's quiet request, passed through Fletcher in a single sentence, just the recorder. No camera. Dana had agreed without pressing, which told Welland something about her. She opened with background. He gave it without decoration. County Kildare, Army at 18, 2 tour, ceremonial posting at 26, current rank, current length of service, current feelings about the job rendered in one economical sentence. It suits me. Then she asked about the fall. She framed it the way he expected her to frame it, as institutional cruelty, the organization's comfort prioritized over the individual's body. She used the word barbaric with the slight over-enunciation of someone who has chosen it carefully and wants to see how it lands. Welland looked at the table for a moment, not because he was bothered, because he was deciding how much of the answer she was ready for. "The rifle has been in continuous ceremonial service since before my grandfather's grandfather was born," he said. "I've had it for 3 years. When I'm gone, someone else will have it for 3 years. The rifle isn't mine." Dana waited. "If I fall and I catch myself with my hands, the rifle goes sideways. Could go down hard on the stone. Could damage the mechanism, damage the metalwork, damage something that belongs to a line of people that started long before me and ends long after me." He paused. "My face is mine. I can take the damage. The rifle can't." Dana looked at him for a moment. "You've practiced this 400 times in training, more since. You've practiced falling on your face." "I've practiced protecting what I was given." She wrote in her notebook, The scratch of pen on paper was the only sound in the room for several seconds. "Does it hurt?" she asked. Same question she'd asked Fletcher. "Yes," he said, same answer, but without Fletcher's hesitation. "And that doesn't bother you?" Wellen considered this with the seriousness it deserved. "What would bother me," he said, "is dropping it." Dana sat with her footage that evening in the hotel room, recorder on the desk, notebook open, laptop cycling through the day's material. She found the moment at the 47-minute mark. She had filmed the changing of the guard from a wide angle earlier in the morning, standard establishing material, the kind she would normally cut to 40 seconds and move on. But in reviewing it for the interview context, she stopped on a frame she had not consciously registered while filming. One of the guards in the rotation had faltered. Not Wellen, someone in the procession. A brief stumble quickly corrected, the kind of thing that didn't make the tourist photographs. But Phil's camera had been running and it had caught, in 3 seconds of incidental footage, the guard's hands. They hadn't moved. A stumble that in any other context would have produced an automatic reach, a reflex grab for balance, a deeply human instinct that predates consciousness, and the hands had stayed. Not stiffly, not with the rigid deliberateness of someone suppressing an urge, with the quiet completeness of something that had been replaced. The reflex had not been suppressed, it had been rerouted. She watched it 4 times. The rifle in those 3 seconds had not tilted a single degree. She closed the laptop and looked at the wall for a while, and did not write anything in the notebook. She came back the next morning without Phil. Without Yara, without the recorder, with a notebook in her coat pocket that she did not take out. She stood at the rope line at 9:40 in the morning and watched the posted guards in the thin October light. Wellen was not on shift yet. She didn't know that, had not planned around it, was not there for him specifically. She was there for the thing she had not been able to name the night before. She watched a guard at the far post. Young, she thought, mid-20s, face unmarked by the particular kind of weather that had marked Welland's. Absolutely still. The tourists around her photographed him with the casual automation of people collecting evidence of a place rather than experiencing it. She did not photograph him. She stood there for 40 minutes, which was 38 minutes longer than she had planned to stand there. And she watched a young man in a wool tunic and a bearskin cap hold something that did not belong to him with the absolute care of someone who understood the difference between custody and ownership. At some point during those 40 minutes, the thesis she had carried into 6 countries and 7 documentaries shifted. Not collapsed, not reversed. Shifted, the way furniture moves when you finally put it where it was always meant to go. Ceremonial military units are institutional theater, she had written in her film journal. They perform permanence for a public that craves it. That was still true, she thought. But it was also, she now suspected, the least interesting thing that was true. Wellen came on shift at 10. He saw her at the rope line immediately. Not because she stood out, but because he had a particular kind of attention that registered without reacting, cataloged without engaging. The same attention that had kept him functional in Helmand and kept him sane in the decades since. The American filmmaker, without her crew, standing still. He took his post, set his eyes forward. The forecourt settled into its particular morning rhythm, the low hum of the city beyond the gates, the shuffle and murmur of the gathering tourists, the distant percussion of London continuing its business. She didn't wave, didn't lean in, didn't test. She just stood there on her side of the rope, watching the ceremony the way you watch something when you've stopped trying to take it apart. Wellen didn't acknowledge her. He couldn't. She knew that. He registered in the peripheral awareness that never quite turned off that she had her notebook in her hand and was not writing in it. 40 minutes later she left. She did not look back. He did not watch her go. The shift ended at 1. Wellen marched back through the palace gates and into the interior corridor with the same measured deliberateness that marked every movement he made on duty. The transition from post to barracks had its own rhythm, not a decompression exactly, because there was nothing to decompress from, more a gentle release of the specific quality of attention the post required, a returning to the ordinary grain of time. In the barracks locker room, he removed the bearskin cap first, held it level, set it down. The gloves came next, folded once. The tunic was hung with the care of someone who understood the distance between what the thing cost and what it meant. He sat on the bench in his undershirt and looked at his hands for a moment. They were the hands of a man who had caught himself thousands of times in ordinary life, on parade ground gravel, on the edges of bunks, on the cold rim of vehicle hatches in Afghan winters. Hands that knew how to break a fall because the body had learned it before the mind had any say in the matter. 400 practice falls to reroute that knowledge, to build a second instinct inside the first one, not to eliminate the reach, but to replace it with something that understood a longer obligation. He flexed his fingers once, set his hands on his knees. His face carried the small history of those falls, the scar along the jawline, a faint asymmetry at the bridge of his nose from a landing in his second year that had been harder than it needed to be. He had never been bothered by these. You could not be bothered by the evidence of something you had chosen with full knowledge. From the shelf of his locker, he took down a small, worn photograph, not a family photograph, not a war photograph, a photograph of his regiment, taken at a passing-out parade 2 years before he had joined it. He was not in the photograph. He had not yet arrived, but the photograph was his because the regiment was his, and the regiment was his because he had chosen to be part of something that did not require his face to be perfect, only his devotion to be complete. He held it for a moment, set it back. There was a note in the locker left there that morning by a corporal on the earlier shift, passed on from the press liaison Fletcher. It read, in the shorthand of men who don't waste paper, "Merritt wants a follow-up. Thurs, your call." Wellen looked at the note for a moment. He set it on the shelf, changed into his civilian jacket with the same economy of motion he applied to everything, and walked out of the barracks into the pale afternoon. His face had a scar on the jawline and a slight asymmetry at the nose, and the particular stillness of someone who had long ago made peace with what his body was for. He would send word to Fletcher in the morning. He would agree to the follow-up, because Dana Merritt had stood at the rope line that morning without a camera or a thesis and had simply watched, and that meant she had arrived at the question underneath the question, and that question deserved an honest answer. The answer was not complicated. It was not dramatic. It would not make a compelling 30-second clip. But it was true, and it was the kind of true that stayed. The rifle is not yours. The post is not yours. The tradition is not yours. You are the current custodian of something that existed before you and will exist after you.